My friend, hear me when I say this: nothing in your life is random. The struggles you've endured, the battles you fought, the moments when you felt unseen, all of it has been shaping you for something extraordinary. If you've been searching for a sign, this is it. These are not just ordinary experiences. They are divine indicators that the hand of God is upon you. Jeremiah 1 verse 5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Let that sink in. You were not an accident. You were chosen, set apart, and destined for a purpose far greater than you can imagine. The very breath in your lungs is proof that God still has work for you to do. And today, I'm here to tell you, if you've noticed these 7 signs, it means God has been moving in your life, positioning you for something great. He doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. That means no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, his plan for you remains. You are his workmanship, crafted for a divine assignment. So pay attention, because what I'm about to share will shift your perspective, renew your strength, and confirm what your spirit has already been sensing. And if you're ready to walk boldly in your calling, type in the comments, "I am chosen for greatness." Declare it. Let heaven on earth witness your faith, because when God calls, there is no force in hell that can stop his will for your life. Now, let's begin. 1. You feel an unshakable hunger for something greater. Have you ever felt like you don't quite fit in with the world's pursuits? While others chase after wealth, recognition, and comfort, something inside you remains unsatisfied. It's as if you're searching for something deeper, something beyond what this world can offer. No matter how much success or stability surrounds you, there's a longing in your spirit, a pull towards something greater. That hunger you feel isn't accidental. It's not a mistake. It's a sign. God has placed something eternal within you. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11 declares, "He has set eternity in the human heart." This means that no earthly thing, no career, no achievement, no amount of material wealth will ever fully satisfy what only God can fulfill. If you felt this stirring in your soul, if you've wrestled with a deep sense that you are made for more, then you need to know this is God calling you. Look at the story of Joseph in Genesis 37 verse 5 to 11. As a young man, Joseph had dreams of greatness. God revealed to him that he was chosen for something far beyond his understanding, but his journey was anything but easy. Instead of stepping straight into his calling, Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and later falsely accused and imprisoned. From the outside, it looked like his dreams had been shattered. But every hardship, every moment of suffering was preparing him for the purpose God had ordained. What seemed like a series of losses was actually divine positioning. Joseph's hunger for something greater never left him. Even in the darkest places, he could have given up. He could have let his trials define him. But he held on to what God had spoken, and in the right time, God elevated him to a position of power second only to Pharaoh, so that he could fulfill his greater purpose, saving many lives during a time of famine. Do you feel that same hunger, that restlessness, that inner stirring that won't let you settle for less? That is God awakening your spirit. He is calling you out of the ordinary because he has destined you for something extraordinary. This hunger is not a burden, it's a gift. It's proof that God is setting you apart. And while the journey may not always make sense, every challenge, every delay, every unexpected turn is part of his preparation. Just like Joseph, your setbacks are not the end of your story. They are steps leading you toward the purpose God has designed for you. So if your heart is longing for something greater, if the comforts of this world no longer satisfy, take heart. This is not a sign of emptiness. It's a sign of calling. You were made for more, and God Himself is leading you toward it. Stay faithful, because the hunger He placed, and you will only be fulfilled by the purpose He has prepared for you. You cannot walk away from God even in your weakest moments. There are moments in life when you feel weak. Times when doubt creeps in, when you struggle, when you fall short of who you know God has called you to be. Maybe you've had seasons where you felt distant, where your heart wandered, where sin, failure, or disappointment clouded your faith. And yet, no matter how far you feel you've drifted, something always pulls you back. Something deep inside refuses to let go of God, even when life seems to be pushing you away. That something is His hand on you. Have you ever wondered why, even in your weakest moments, you cannot fully walk away from Him? Why, despite the trials, the struggles, the times you've stumbled, your heart still longs for His presence? It's because you are chosen. When God has called you, when His hand is upon your life, you cannot escape His love. You may fall, but He lifts you up. You may wander, but He draws you back. Look at David. David was a man after God's own heart, yet he was far from perfect. In 2 Samuel 11, he made a grave mistake, falling into sin, deceit, and failure. By all worldly standards, he could have been cast aside, forgotten, unworthy of God's calling. But David's story didn't end in failure. Why? Because God had chosen him. Acts 13 verse 22 reminds us that despite his flaws, David was still the man God called. He repented, he returned, and God's purpose for his life was never canceled. This is the mark of the chosen. A true child of God may face moments of weakness, but they will never be abandoned. If you are His, He will always complete what He has started in you. Philippians 1 verse 6 declares, He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. What God starts, He finishes. His calling is not dependent on your perfection. It is anchored in His faithfulness. Maybe you've had moments where you felt unworthy. Maybe you've questioned whether God could still use you after everything you've been through. But hear this, if you are not chosen, you would not feel this pull to return to Him. If you are not set apart, you wouldn't even desire His presence after falling. The very fact that your heart cannot let go of Him, even when life is hard, is proof that He is not let go of you. So do not believe the lie that you are too far gone. Do not let shame keep you from running back to the one who has called you by name. You are divinely appointed, and the one who has begun His work, and you will surely bring it to completion. Keep walking, even if you stumble. Keep saying, King, even when you feel weak, God's hand is on your life, and nothing, not even your failures, can erase His purpose for you. 3. You experience supernatural provision in difficult times. Life brings moments when everything seems impossible. When the bills pile up, when the job is lost, when the doors seem closed, and you don't know where the next provision will come from. But then right when you need it most, something happens, a breakthrough. A helping hand, a door that wasn't there before suddenly opens, and in those moments you realize that it was never by your own strength, it was God providing for you. Have you ever wondered why in the hardest seasons He was still sustained? Despite the struggles, you never completely lacked what you needed. That is not luck. That is not coincidence. That is God's supernatural provision over your life. A chosen one walks in divine favor, not because of their own efforts, but because God's hand is upon them. Look at Elijah and 1 Kings 17. In a time of drought and famine, when resources were scarce, when the world had no solutions, God provided for him in ways that defies all logic. He sent ravens to bring him food. He led him to a widow who had nothing but a handful of flour and a little oil, yet that little never ran out. It wasn't abundance, but it was always enough. And that's how God works. His provision is not always an overflow of wealth or ease, but it is always what you need exactly when you need it. Maybe you've seen this in your own life. Maybe there was a moment when you didn't know how you would make it through, but somehow God made a way, that unexpected check, that friend who showed up at the right time, that job opportunity that came just when you were losing hope. Matthew 6 verse 26 reminds us of this truth. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in bonds, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? If God takes care of the birds, how much more will He take care of you? You who are cold, set apart, chosen for His purpose. How could He ever forget you if you are walking through a season of struggle? Let this be your confidence. God will not let you fall. His provision may not always come the way you expect, but it will always come. That's why you must not fear. Do not let worry steal your peace. Trust that the same God who fed Elijah in the wilderness, the same God who multiplies the little and makes it enough, is the same God who was watching over you right now. He sees what you need, He knows what you lack, and He is already making a way. For you carry a burden for others and the world's suffering. Have you ever looked at the suffering in the world and felt it deep in your soul as if the pain of others was your own? Have you ever seen injustice, brokenness, or loss and felt a burden so heavy that you couldn't ignore it? That is not by accident. That is not just a personality trait. That is God placing His heart within you. When you are chosen, you do not walk through life indifferent. You feel, you see, you ache for what God aches for. And that ache is not a burden, it is a calling. Look at Nehemiah. He was not a prophet. He was not a priest. He was a cupbearer, a servant in the king's palace. And yet, when he heard about the ruins of Jerusalem, his heart broke. Now, Nehemiah 1 verse 4 says, When I heard these things, I sat down and wept for some days. I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. He could have dismissed it. He could have carried on with his comfortable life in the palace, but he couldn't, because he was chosen to rebuild. The weight in his heart wasn't just emotion, it was divine purpose stirring within him. Maybe you feel that same weight. Maybe you see people hurting, and something inside of you whispers, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Maybe you carry a deep desire to help, to restore, to lift others up. That is evidence that God has called you for something greater. You are not meant to sit on the sidelines. You are not meant to watch suffering and feel powerless. That burden you carry is God's way of pointing you toward your purpose. But here's what I want you to know. You are not alone in carrying it. God does not place a calling on your life without also giving you His strength. Galatians 6 verse 2 tells us, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. When you feel overwhelmed by the pain of the world, remember that God has not asked you to carry it alone. He walks with you. He equips you. He strengthens you for the work ahead. So if your heart is heavy for the brokenness around you, do not shrink back. Do not see it as a burden to bear, but as a calling to fulfill. Just as Nehemiah was chosen to restore what was lost, you have been chosen to bring light into darkness, hope into despair, and love into a world that desperately needs it. 5. God removes certain people and closes doors in your life. There comes a time in your life when people start walking away. Friendships you thought would last forever begin to fade. Opportunities you were counting on suddenly fall through. Doors slam shut, sometimes without warning, sometimes in ways that break your heart. And in those moments, it's easy to ask why. Why did they leave? Why did that relationship fail? Why did that opportunity disappear just when I needed it most? But here's what I want you to understand. Not every loss is a curse. Sometimes it is divine redirection. Sometimes it is God's way of making room for something greater. Look at Moses. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by power, wealth, and privilege. That life was all he had ever known. But Exodus to verse 15 tells us that when Pharaoh sought to kill him, Moses fled to the wilderness. In the moment, it must have felt like his entire world had collapsed. But what looked like a devastating loss was actually the first step toward his divine purpose. Moses had to leave Egypt before he could be transformed into the leader God had called him to be. If he had stayed, he would have never become the deliverer of Israel. Maybe right now, you are going through a season where God is removing people from your life. Maybe you've lost friendships, relationships, or opportunities you thought were meant for you, and it hurts. But hear me when I say this: God is not punishing you, He is positioning you. You cannot step into your calling while holding on to people or places that were never meant to go where God is leading you. Sometimes separation is necessary for elevation. Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 6 tells us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. You may not understand why certain people have left. You may not see the full picture of why certain doors have closed. But you can trust that God is making your path straight. He is clearing away the distractions. He is removing the people who would hinder your purpose. He is shutting the wrong doors so you can walk through the right ones. So instead of mourning what was lost, trust in what God is doing. When you are chosen, you cannot take everyone with you. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your calling, and that's okay. Because what God has for you is greater than anything you have lost. Keep your eyes on him. Keep trusting his process. And when one door closes, know that it is only making room for something greater. 6. You have survived what should have broken you. Beloved, there will be seasons when you look back and wonder how you ever made it through. You have endured storms that should have destroyed you and battles that should have left you broken beyond repair. There were nights you thought you wouldn't make it to morning, seasons where the weight of life pressed so hard against your spirit that you felt like you couldn't take another step. But here you are still standing. And that is not by accident. Think about the trials you have faced, the losses, the betrayals, the hardships that tried to consume you. The enemy had a plan to take you out, but he failed. Why? Because God's hand is on your life. If you are not chosen, you would not have survived. You are not here by chance. You are here because God has been with you through every storm, through every trial, through every fire. Look at the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 11 verse 23 to 28. He speaks of the unimaginable hardships he endured: beatings, shipwrecks, imprisonments, hunger, and persecution. Any one of these trials could have broken him. But did he give up? No. He pressed on because he knew that his suffering had a purpose. He knew that God has chosen him for something greater. And in the end, Paul could boldly declare in 2 Timothy 4 verse 7, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. That is the mark of the chosen. They may be struck down, but they are never destroyed. I want you to hear me today. The fact that you are still here is proof of God's power over your life. The battles you have fought and survived are not random. They are evidence that God's purpose for you is greater than the attack against you. If the enemy could have destroyed you, he would have done it by now. But God has kept you. He has strengthened you. He has carried you through the waters that should have drowned you, through the fire that should have consumed you. Isaiah 43 verse 2 gives us this promise: when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. This is not a question of if you will face hardship, because you will, but the promise is that when you do, you will not go through it alone. God himself will walk with you, and he will bring you through. So don't let your trials make you doubt your calling. If anything, let them confirm it. You have survived for a reason. There is still work for you to do. There is still a purpose on your life that has yet to be fulfilled. Keep fighting, keep believing, keep moving forward, because the very truth that you are still standing means that God is not finished with you yet. 7. You face intense spiritual battles and opposition. If you have been facing relentless battles, overwhelming opposition, or attacks that seem to come out of nowhere, I want you to listen closely. This is not a sign that you have forgotten. This is a sign that you are chosen. The enemy does not waste his energy on those who pose no threat. He only fights what he fears. If you have been under intense spiritual warfare, it is because your calling is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Satan has been using every tool he can against you: discouragement, betrayal, hardship. Because he sees what you carry, he knows that if you step into your purpose, lives will be changed. So he fights you with everything he has. But here's what the enemy does not understand: his attacks cannot cancel what go. God has already ordained that the more he tries to destroy you, the more God strengthens you. The more he tries to break you, the more God builds you. Look at Job in Job 1 verse 6 to 22. Satan went before God seeking permission to attack Job, not because Job was weak, but because he was righteous. Job lost everything: his wealth, his health, even his children. Yet in the midst of his suffering, he refused to curse God. He held on, and in the end, God restored him double for his trouble. The enemy thought he could destroy Job, but all he did was set him up for a greater blessing. That is the truth for you today. The attacks you have faced are not proof that you are losing. They are proof that you are being prepared. God is using every battle to strengthen you, to refine you, to equip you for what's coming next. 2 Corinthians for us 8-9 says it so powerfully: we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. The enemy may come against you, but he cannot defeat you, because you are chosen, you are anointed, you are covered. So do not fear the battles, do not be discouraged, When opposition rises against you, instead take it as confirmation that there is something powerful inside of you, something that the enemy is desperate to stop. But he cannot stop what God has started. He who began a good work, and you will be faithful to complete it. Hold on, keep fighting, keep pressing forward, because the battle is not a sign that you are losing, is a sign that you are stepping into something greater. If these signs resonate with you, then hear me clearly. God is calling you to something great. You are not here by accident. Every battle you faced, every door that closed, every longing in your heart has been preparing you for something beyond what you can imagine. The enemy may have tried to convince you that you are unworthy, but let me remind you, God does not make mistakes. If he has chosen you, he has equipped you. If he has called you, he will complete the work in you. C.S. Lewis once said, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Your trials have not been in vain. Your struggles have been shaping you for the very thing God is leading you into. You're stepping into a season where everything will begin to make sense.